Britain in the winter. What a beautiful, uplifting, bright, motivating place to be. Hello one and all, and welcome to Seen Through Glass. Now, in my last video, I revealed that I bought a Citroen C4 WRC replica rally car. Well, that video caused a lot of you to ask the question, well, what other cars are in your garage these days, Sam? Because you may have noticed that I actually replaced a shot of my 911 Carrera T in my kind of intro title sequence with a shot of the 360. And right now, I'm driving around in a Mini. So yes, there's lots to discuss, lots to explain in today's Garage Update. We are kicking things off then with my current daily driver. This is a 2019 Mini Clubman JCW, John Cooper Works. I first saw one of these cars at a big event at the BMW World in Germany last year. I feel like recently I've just been appreciating the ways that Minis look on the road. So I'd wandered over to the Mini stand just to see, the latest products when I got introduced to one of the product team for the Clubman JCW. Turns out he was a Seen Through Glass viewer. What a legend. Well, anyway, it didn't take him long to try and start selling the idea of a Clubman to me, and I have to say, it's a brilliant idea because this latest version of the JCW Clubman has the same 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder engine as the brand new BMW M135i. That means we've got over 300 horsepower, and because of the all-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive system in this car, 0 to 60 is under 5 seconds. Let's not forget the Clubman is also Mini's kind of estate car, so practicality is through the roof. This car is a gem. Now, full disclosure, I've actually had the keys to this thing for a couple of months because it's a long-term loan from Mini. Basically, after that event at the BMW World, they got in touch and said, look, we realise you really like the idea of the Clubman. Well, do you want to borrow one for like 6 months? And I went, yes. So basically, as soon as I got back from Drive the World, this thing turned up at my front door. And it's been so great. I'm a big fan of smaller cars in London. I mean, as I keep saying, it's not that small anymore, the Mini, and especially not the Clubman, but it's definitely not an impractical supercar, a huge SUV, or, like a big saloon or estate. It's still nimble, easy to park, but what is amazing is how much stuff you can fit in it, because since returning from my travels, I've not only found a new home, but I've also acquired a studio for Behind the Glass. Fans of my podcast, keep your eyes peeled, but it's meant I've been doing endless trips to IKEA and furniture shops and homeware shops, and you can just fit so much stuff in this car. It's kind of mind-blowing. It's like a magician's hat. You just keep putting stuff in and pulling stuff out. It's blown my mind at times, but it's been fantastic and it's been great. There are a few niggles, a few negatives. So let's start up. We'll go for a little bit of a drive. I'll talk you through the things that I think are, not so great about this car, but then also talk you through my plans for it over the next few months, because I don't have to hand it back till May, and I want to do some cool adventures with it. So yes, let's go. So I've told you my initial kind of positive thoughts about the Clubman, so I really should share some initial negative thoughts, but there really aren't that many. If I'm honest, they're just kind of like little niggles, little personal things that grate on me. But anyway, here we go. I'm trying to be fair and impartial. So yes, I'm not a big fan of the interior design. I know it's kind of Mini trying to be unique and quirky and do their own thing, but I've never really been a fan of the way they lay things out. I mean, do you remember when the Speedo still here? In this car, I've got a lovely sort of digital screen in the centre, but I used to remember getting into Minis and having to look over here to see how fast you were going. That just annoyed me. So yeah, I'm still not a big fan of this, but if you look at Audis and VWs, the rivals, they just do it better. Anyway, personal issue. Another personal issue, I'm just not a fan of the 4-cylinder engine. I know I used to own one in the 718 Cayman S, but I think maybe that was the last one that I ever want to own. It's just, no matter how quick and engaging this car can be to drive, the actual sound from the engine is just always a bit flat and dull, and that holds it back for me in a sense. And then finally, this is a very weird one, but those awesome and iconic Clubman doors at the back, the ones that swing open, are great until this car gets dirty, which in the UK in the winter is all the time. Because when you come to close those doors, I've only worked out, the only way I've worked out how to do them is to close them from the outside. So when they're dirty, you just get filthy. So yeah, a bit of a weird thing to complain about there, but trying to think of things, because in general, I think this car is brilliant. I genuinely think it's great, which is why I want to do some cool stuff with it over the next few months, giving it back at the start of May. And so before then, I definitely want to take it to Wales, do some proper like B-road bashing, because let's face it, if you're going to have a JCW Mini, you need to throw it around some corners, and I'm not going to do that here in London. So yes, Wales for sure. I feel like I also kind of want to take it into Europe at some point, maybe for the Geneva Motor Show or some other kind of adventure. Then I wonder whether I can get the guys together for an old hot hatch tour, but this is kind of like, what, hot estate tour? I don't know. Anyway, there you go. That introduces my current daily driver. Now let's go find the Ferrari. Well, welcome to Windrush Car Storage. A lot of you will know that this is where I've kept my car, well, for a couple of years now. Last year during Drive the World, it was at their Cotswolds location because I needed it sort of stored away on a more long-term basis. But prior to that, and now that I'm back in London, I use Windrush's London sort of back cave is the only way to describe it. It's so much fun coming here because you get to play Guess What's Under the Cover. And trust me, most of the stuff under the cover is outrageous. But anyway, there's the car, parked up, looking very, very pretty. Kind of one of the best things about these guys is they take better care of my car than I would myself. So not only do I know that whenever I want to come and get it, I can pick up and it's going to be running smoothly, but it's also clean and well maintained. And I feel like they've stroked it and licked it like I would if it was parked outside my house. Anyway, let's jump inside, hit the road, and update you with my plans for the 360 this year. Now, it should go without saying that this car is going nowhere. The 360 is my forever car. It's got 3,000... No, sorry, I wish. It's got 33,228 miles on the clock right now. Obviously, the majority of those were done, well, before I bought the car, but also pre-Drive the World. I think last year, put about 50 miles on the clock, which is embarrassing. In 2020, we got to take this car places. I have never been, and I am not mileage sensitive with the 360. I just want to keep adding to that total. So yes, I definitely want to think of some cool trips to do with it, because I've taken it great places already, but this year we got to go abroad, I think. I always want there to be a reason, a purpose for a trip with a 360, not just a road trip for the sake of it. You know, I went down to the Finale Mondiale in Italy once, went down to Monaco with Paul Wallace. You know, let's brainstorm some cool places to take this. In addition to that, I do finally want to fit a Challenge Stradale exhaust to this car. I did actually find one at the end of the last year that was for sale, agreed a deal with the seller, but for some reason the mechanic who's kind of like storing it has just gone MIA, so I don't know if that will actually come off, but fingers crossed at some point in the next few months we'll finally get an OEM Challenge Stradale exhaust fitted, because right now it's still got the tubey exhaust, which is better than stock, but it's not exactly the tone that I want. Also, some of you may remember that when I took this car for service last year, I test drove one of the craziest 360 project cars ever created, owned by a lunatic called 360 Trev. It's just a behemoth of every sort of dream 360 part you could imagine. But one very interesting thing he had was a recalibrated ECU, which was effectively a Challenge or a Challenge Stradale ECU, but for a car with a 6-speed manual gearbox. So I'm quite intrigued about getting that put on at the same time as the exhaust. It should just make this car a little bit more crazy. So yes, some exciting plans and prospects for the 360 in 2020, but it's not going anywhere. It'll be sitting in Windrush when I'm not using it, and then when I am, we'll be having a ton of fun. I think probably less London miles in this car this year, but definitely big road trip miles ahead. Anyway, those are kind of like the straightforward updates. The Mini, it's an introduction, now you know it's here. The 360, you all knew was going nowhere. Let's go and find the 911 Carrera T and the Citroen rally car, because yeah, a bit more to talk about with those two. I? What is this life that I'm pretending to live? I do not know, because right now the 4 cars that I have keys for are parked behind me. It's like some weird altruistic kind of future where I'm a wannabe Shmee 150 or Salamandrin. It all feels a bit bizarre, but let's just get real for 2 seconds. 2 of those cars are heavily financed through Magnitude Finance. One cost me 10k from a guy in Birmingham, and the other one is loaned to me by Mini. So yeah, I'm not quite at the heady heights of some of my other fellow YouTubers. But I have now introduced you to the Mini, updated you on the 360. It's time to get deep and talk about my plans for the C4 and the 911 Carrera T. The C4 is still covered in dirt from the snow tour. I only got back a couple of days ago, and I feel like it's kind of appropriate for it to be really dirty. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a wannabe rally car. It needs to look like it's been doing some rallying. Now, I'll be completely upfront and honest with you guys. My plan was to get back from snow tour and sell this car immediately. I bought it for a purpose, which was snow tour. That purpose is now over, so why keep it? Well, I tell you why keep it. I kind of fell in love with it. Well, falling in love with it is maybe a bit strong, but I grew a strong appreciation for it, or of it. It just keeps bringing a smile to my face, even here in London, where it looks so out of place. I'm just having so much fun every time I get into it. Okay, fine, I need to see a chiropractor and maybe do some really extreme yoga to recover from the back pain it's caused, but apart from that, it's brilliant. And at the end of the video last week where I introduced this car to the channel, I think a lot of you sort of liked my idea of potentially doing an all-wheel drive conversion, or like redoing the entire engine and just making it an even more extreme version of itself. I have started to look into those possibilities, and it's already getting a little bit ludicrously expensive. One quote came back around the 50k mark, which just makes no sense. But I think the one thing I've realised, or the one thing that's been awoken inside of me, is my desire for a completely ridiculous and pointless rally or rally-inspired car. Whether it's going to be the C4 or something else, I don't know. So over the coming months, I'll be looking into these various possibilities of what can or can't be done to make this thing a sort of better version of itself. And if I decide that maybe it's a little bit if it's too expensive, then I'll sell it and maybe start again with something else. So who knows, but for now, the C4's staying. Which is sadly more than I can say for the Carrera T. I've been sitting on this for a couple of months, going back and forth, changing my mind constantly, but I have decided I'm going to be selling the Carrera T. Just like the C4, I bought this car for a purpose: drive the world. And I think it served that purpose perfectly. I still maintain there would have been no better car to do that trip with. But now that I've finished that trip, I don't find myself rushing to get back in this thing. I spend most of my time in the 360 or the Mini, or more recently the C4, and I just feel like I've done everything I could do or would want to do with the 911. And where do I go from here? Even from a content point of view, you guys have seen it all. I could restrip it, I could change the lights, I don't know what, but meh. So yes, I think unfortunately it is time to part ways, to separate myself from this car, which has been brilliant. I have, of course, formed incredible memories. I've got photographs, I've got videos, I've got stories from my time with this thing. I don't think will be beaten. They'll forever be in here and on print and on social media. So why keep it as just a relic? I don't know. It's done around 30,000 miles, so there's still some value in it. And I think, you know, the STG plate is always supposed to be the workhorse car of this channel, a car for content. And as I say, I think I've done all the content I can with the T. So I would like to change it up, swap it out for something which, you know, has a new storyline, something I can take on new adventures, form new memories with. So yes, unfortunately, time to say goodbye. Any of you interested in a one-owner, carefully driven, never tracked Carrera T, get in touch. I will share the information when it gets posted for sale, but as I say, if you are seriously interested, drop me a DM or send me an email and we can have a chat. But yeah, sad times, but also great times. This car should be celebrated and not mourned, because it's been amazing. Well, there we have it, a full garage update for you guys. What's staying, what's going, what's coming. No, I didn't do what's coming because I don't know what's coming. But anyway, for those of you that were asking, I hope you enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up if you have, and make sure to subscribe for plenty more videos to come.